In this talk, I'm going to deal with Peter's denial of Jesus. Simon Peter followed Jesus, and so did another disciple. As this disciple was known to the high priest, he entered the court of the high priest along with Jesus, while Peter stood at the door. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out and spoke to the maid who kept the door and brought Peter in. The maid who kept the door said to Peter, "Are not you also one of this man's disciples?" He said, "I am not." Now the servants and officers had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing and warming themselves. Peter also was with them, standing and warming himself. So the scene introduces another disciple who helps Simon Peter to get into the courtyard. Raymond Brown, a great Catholic scholar who devoted his entire life mostly to the study of the Gospel of John and the Johannine epistles, he thinks that this is the beloved disciple, although he's not specifically identified as such in this scene. All of the scenes which involve the beloved disciple in the ministry take place in Jerusalem. The Last Supper, the cross, the tomb. He is never mentioned in any of the stories in Galilee. For this reason, Brown argues that the beloved disciple was not one of the 12, not part of the Galilean ministry. Rather, he was a member of the Jerusalem community who believed in Jesus. Eventually, when the disciples were expelled from the synagogue, the beloved disciple helped them to make that transition. I am not. All the Gospels report that Peter denied Jesus 3 times. However, they staged the event differently. More on this shortly. Here I will simply note that Peter's all too human uk eimi contrasts sharply with the divine ego eimi of Jesus. So then we have the high priest questions Jesus. The high priest then questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. Jesus answered him, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple where all Jews come together. I have said nothing secretly. Why do you ask me? Ask those who have heard me what I said to them. They know what I said." When he had said this, one of the officers standing by struck Jesus with his hand, saying, "Is that how you answer the high priest?" Jesus answered him, "If I have spoken wrongly, bear witness to the wrong. But if I have spoken rightly, why do you strike me?" Annas then sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. So the attitude of Jesus toward the high priest in Acts chapter 23, during a confrontation, Paul insults the high priest. He calls him a whitewashed sepulcher. And then when the people there say, "Would you revile God's high priest?" Paul backs down. He says, "I did not know, brethren, that he was the high priest. For it is written, you shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people." Contrast the attitude of the Johannine Jesus. He simply states the truth. He doesn't back down. He's not in awe of the religious authority. Peter's second and third denials. Now Simon Peter was standing and warming himself. They said to him, "Are you not one of his disciples?" He denied it and said, "I am not." One of the servants of the high priest, a kinsman of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" Peter again denied it, and at once the cock crowed. So, staging the scene, Luke versus John, Luke has all 3 questions to Peter take place before the high priest questions Jesus. As a result, Jesus is still outside in the courtyard while Peter is being questioned. When Peter makes his third denial, only Luke reports, "And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said, before the cock crows today, you will deny me 3 times. And he went out and wept bitterly." I forgot to comment on that when I did Luke's. They're both out there together in the court, so only Luke portrays the Lord looking right at Peter after he said that third denial. Staging the scene, John. In John, Peter's denial serves as a frame for the questioning of Jesus by the high priest. With Jesus inside, testifying to the truth, Peter is outside denying him. So the frame of denial serves to emphasize the truth of what's happening inside. The human weakness of Peter is contrasted with the heavenly serenity of Jesus. And I purposely did not use the word divine because John never once uses that word. And I even give a scholarly footnote. Can you tell the story of Jesus without even once using the word divine? Most Catholics slip after about 5 seconds. Some can go 2 or 3 minutes talking about Jesus without saying divine. But Matthew did it, Mark did it, Luke did it, and John did it. Not one of them used the word divine. You won't see it in any of the Gospels. However, it is easy enough to see how later Christians, supported by John's high Christology, would use that word to describe Jesus. Peter's reaction. All of the synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, report that Peter wept. John does not mention this. His emphasis, as always, is on the mystery of the person of Jesus. Anything that detracts from that, he's just going to leave out. And this ends the scene of Peter's denial of Jesus.